What's up, guys? I am continuing my opening of every single He-Man type character in Masterverse. This way I can answer a question that I've had for a little while now. Who is the coolest? If I did a countdown of every single one of the He-Man figures that is released in Masterverse, what is the best one? I asked this question because I opened the 40th anniversary He-Man, and it kind of got me wondering, is this really the best? And if so, where do all the others fall in my personal opinion? Then I started having to ask questions as to who all was in that countdown. And just to let you know, it was actually asked on the last video. Yes, Savage He-Man is included in this countdown. So going back to the video that we just did, where I unboxed Faker and then looked at him and said, yes, he is a He-Man figure, just like the other Faker would also be a He-Man variant. Just like Anti-Eternia He-Man is a He-Man variant, Slime He-Man is a He-Man variant, these are still He-Man, even if they're their own character at heart. Now, Savage He-Man cuts back to something that's very interesting for me, because while I know that Savage He-Man appears in the actual Revelation anime, should I call it anime? Animation? I'm not sure which is fair at that point. I just go with animation. Because anime, that's different. To be fair, it is different. It's a whole different style. It's a whole different idea. It was animation. It's very solid animation, by the way. I'm 100% on board with Revelation, and I'm 100% looking forward to Revolution. That was me. I loved that. But even though this figure cuts to the idea that it happened in that series, it also cuts back to something else that I can't ignore. Let's look at this box art. Alright, here we are. This is Savage He-Man. That's what it's referred to, and as you can see, it comes with Orko. I'm sure a lot of people have already unboxed this way before me, but you know my videos are not about that. My videos are very much about how I see this property at large and what these guys make me think and stuff like that. And first off, I love Orko. Like, I really do. I liked him so much in Revelation, and then went back and found a whole new level of appreciation for him when I watched the original series. So Orko's fantastic. Now, that being said, let's check out the side here. This is kind of a rough setup right now. Let's move the camera up a little bit, see if we can't get a better angle on it. Okay, so we got a Savage He-Man right here, and we got another Savage He-Man right here, and we got Orko. Now, this is what's important. I feel like this is important to point out. If you look at this, the spine art, this guy seems composed. He seems to be his own character, and that is immensely important. See, this Savage He-Man right here has a spear. Seems like he might have actual thought and preparation in what he's doing. He comes with this giant battle axe. Right here, he's crossing his arms. This guy is a composed thing on the side art here. It is not just simply the He-Man that ran crazy after calling the power without having the power sword to actually control the transfer of energy. This is very interesting to me because personally I think this is cutting back to something at the very beginning of all He-Man. So let me turn this around here. Let's get a look at this real quick. I want to see this actually, myself included actually, because I personally buy these things, put them on the shelf, and don't touch them until I come down to do this review so that I can get everything I want right here in my first run, and that all my thoughts and everything are discovered in real time alongside the audience in general. So for years it was assumed that Prince Adam could only call upon the power of Grayskull using the Sword of Power, but what happens if he did not raise aloft his magic sword and said, by the power of Grayskull? The answer, Savage He-Man, a combination of primal rage and the power of the universe. He-Man tears through Eternia in an uncontrollable rampage, leaving his friends hoping that Adam is in there somewhere. Yes, that is what we're seeing on the back here. That is very much what we saw in Revelation, and it was really, really cool. I enjoyed it quite a lot. But that does not change the fact of what I was thinking in terms of the spine art. Let's look down here real quick. I have it. I have this entire line. That's fantastic. That means we won't have any skips or having to backtrack or anything like that as I go through and open all these characters. That's fantastic news. I don't have all of Masterverse, but I'm getting closer all the time. It's one of the few lines that I'm keeping up with because collecting, of course, as you know, as anybody knows that collects, this stuff, any toy line just keeps coming out and coming out and coming out and coming out. And if you're trying to follow more than one toy line, it is impossible. But this I have kept up with. This has been an absolute primary focus for me. So I'm only missing about maybe 5 or 6 guys at most, and I will have completed the line, and that's fantastic. But all that being said, we need to open him, and we also need to talk about what I think this guy doubles as. So here we are, Orko and Savage He-Man. Now let me start real quick by looking at Orko. Orko is, by the way, fantastic. And I'm not kidding. The redesign of Orko into Revelation, the animation that they chose, the design, fantastic. I love that his ears are out here, and he has kind of like a gremlin-esque look about him. The way he's really, really small, and you actually see his arms. I love the face giving me a Final Fantasy feel. I really love that. I love Final Fantasy. I love older Final Fantasy, especially. So giving me a literal black mage looking character with hat and everything, this is so fantastic. I loved this character in Revelation. I really did. Like I said, Revelation made me pay attention to Orko. And then, since then, I started watching the original series, watched all of that, and absolutely fell in love with Orko. I think he is fantastic. Beyond fantastic. He is such a good character. I love him because I get tired of seeing heroes always win, and he was always the self-doubt hero. He was always a guy that was capable, had a lot of mistakes, was just trying to fit in. I really loved the way they played him off. Yes, I realize he was played for a lot of comedic value, but the episodes where he is allowed to be a character, where he gets to make mistakes and then has to make up for those mistakes, or has to deal with the ramifications of not doing things that he's told to do or whatever, he's very much a child's idea of trying to grow up and do all these big things, not being able to do them, and not fully comprehending why. And then finding accomplishment in certain things as his life goes on, and not necessarily being able to take full credit for those big things because of his personality and the self-doubt that he has, because he feels like a character growing up. Then we come into Revelation, and he literally gets to grow up, save the day, and basically gets a straight-up gets a straight-up Gandalf moment when he gets to come back as essentially Orko the White. Like, it's so cool, and I want that figure. I want that figure like crazy. We've looked over Orko now. There's not too much to say. He moves pretty well. I like that this is a separate piece. I talked about his head and everything like that, and how I love that it's got the Final Fantasy and the Gremlin-esque to it. He comes on a little stand. He's got decent movement this way, very little movement that way. This goes that, and this can turn around and whatnot, so you can get kind of different area poses, as opposed to where his little misty thing is that's below him, his little effect. He's got decent movement and everything like that. He's not perfect by any means, but he's solid. and I really, really like him. He'll go on the shelf and he'll be fantastic. I tried to get one of these over and over and over again for the Origin collection, and either they're overpriced to a point where I'm simply not paying $60 for an Orko right now. I'm not gonna do it. I'm crossing my fingers and waiting. Or they were at Target and they were extremely limited, and I saw one in the whole time that I've been collecting. I only ever saw one on the shelf, and there was an older man in front of me. I assume he was older. He very much looked older than me. And he picked it up off the shelf, looked at it for a little while, and walked off with it and kept it. And yeah, so that kind of sucked. I never ended up getting that Orko. But I guess that's the way that goes sometimes. Now, that all being said, Savage He-Man. This guy is dirty looking. And you know what? I love it. I love that he's dirty looking. I love that this is more primitive than it already was. And I love that his hair is long and unkept, and he even has his neck has a natural bend forward to it. Like he actually has to stand in a savage way. He has to kind of lean forward and everything, or lean way back to kind of get that view. Or he's kind of made to literally take these kind of stances, because his head actually naturally curves down. His hair makes it so he can't really look up very well and everything. It gets a little bit in his way, but like I said, I actually think that's to his benefit. I think he's meant to be that kind of character, and that works for him. But here's the thing okay, hold on. He comes with 2 weapon holding hands. He comes with a spear, a very primitive spear. He comes with a wicked battle axe, which I like quite a bit. It's super ridiculously huge. Look at the size of that thing. And it comes with a power sword. That I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think he should come with a power sword. I'm not 100% sure why they decided he should come with a power sword, but he does, and I don't feel like it's warranted. I'm not sure that I'm 100% digging that. Now, let me finally get to the part that I've been dancing around. He, I think, fills 2 roles in terms of being in this content in Masterverse. And I think, though I can't prove it, I think this was on purpose. But if we were to set up the weapons, right? If we were to set up, say, I don't even know, just this. I'll use this. If we were to set this here, right? And we were to set him, okay? We're going to set him up so he's kind of like this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this type of pose, right? He's right like this. Kind of doesn't know exactly what's going on. He's kind of like, okay, I see what you're laying down, person. I cannot get him to stand up all of a sudden. I'm going to get it. There. That's wild, ridiculous right there, the way that I've got him standing. But let's say we did that. And then let's say we took this item and we put it up like this, right? And we took this axe and we put it up like this, right? And then we went all the way over here to grab one of my favorite figures that I have and put her right here like this, see? And this is a part of what I think he is. I think that this He-Man, on purpose, is designed this way because Savage He-Man, in terms of Masterverse, yes, I realize he's the revelation moment. But is he not almost exactly pulled from the pages of the original first mini-comic? Is he not the Savage He-Man The original barbarian character, the first He-Man, the man that walked out of the jungle, helped the Eternian goddess, saved her life while she was battling with a monster that he just happened to come across their battle. And then she granted him enchanted weapons and enchanted armor that would protect him. Stuff like the power barrier and the strength enhancing harness and things of that nature. Is that not exactly what we are looking at right here? Because I would argue that it most certainly is. Now you could say that I'm stretching to find something here that isn't necessarily here. But it would be hard to prove that I didn't just see what I saw. This is a compendium omnibus. If you haven't seen this book, this is cool. This is the complete He-Man Masters of the Universe mini-comic collection. And it just so happens that if you open it up to the first mini-comic and you flip just a couple of pages, you come across this image right here. And is that not exactly what we just looked at? Let me get this in focus here. Whoop, don't see me, camera. See this. There. See that? Is that not exactly what I'm talking about? Is that not this right here? And that is the first mini-comic. That is the first He-Man. That is exactly what I have argued since the beginning. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe is an incredibly malleable product, and it always has been, and it's always been meant to. Because one could even argue that the one you see in the mini-comic is not the He-Man we got. I know this isn't the classic He-Man, I very much know that, I understand that. But you get the idea. This is a different He-Man. If you just look at him, he doesn't quite look like the guy that we're shown in the first mini-comic. Not until about the second mini-comic does he really start looking 100% like the He-Man that you're playing with toy-wise. And it doesn't take long for the mini-comics to basically upend and change that story, where all of a sudden he actually does have to start going into like a cave, where he goes into the cave and the cave somehow gives him the power to transform into He-Man. And like, there's so many different versions, and that's just in the original toy line. There was a Filmation version, which of course was what everybody was watching on TV. There was a Savage version from the first 2 or 3 mini-comics. There was the toy version, which very much was kind of the same thing, but also very much just a Conan the Barbarian Savage character that you could just play. And then there was a 4th one where Prince Adam was very much a thing, and had to like go into a cave where the Eternian goddess, who was also referred to at the time as the sorceress, she would basically, the cave allowed him to transform. It had nothing to do with the sword. And like just version after version after version, and that's just within the original toy line. We're not even getting to the fact that later on they reboot the series with the 2000X, come out with a whole new wave of toys, and then basically Classics is its own universe altogether, because when they did the bios for Classics, they tried to bring everything that ever existed from He-Man and kind of piece it together and make it work. And for the most part, you gotta give the clap here when they actually do manage to pull it off in certain terms, but then other times they're stretching it to a point where if you look at the original material, you go, yeah, but that's not, I read the comics and that's not what that was. You're very much retconning your own ideas into this. And there's nothing wrong with that if you look at the entirety of the series as it really is, a malleable content. So Classics takes everything that ever existed in He-Man, rewrites the story just enough to guarantee that it all fits and plays with all continuity and does it in a whole new way, and then starts building its own new continuity off of that. Is that fine? Sure. If that's your version of He-Man, that's perfectly fine. If that's your Motu, that's your Motu. But that's not the 2000X Motu, that's not the original Motu, that's not the Toys Motu, that's not the comics Motu. It's all different, and it should be. I love this property. And that was my initial look at this He-Man. Do I think this He-Man is going to hit really high on the list? Not necessarily. I do actually believe he'll be pretty low as a He-Man variant in the Masterverse, but I do think it's really, really cool that if I wanted, this would probably be a display for me if I decided to go with something like this, because that just, to me, it just looks right. I think that's what this is. I think that is very much the original first Savage He-Man, the first He-Man to walk out of the Jungle Man, the sorceress offering him his weapons. And if he is just meant to be nothing more than the Revelation He-Man that jumps out and goes crazy on Skeletor, on Skelegod, then I pose a question. Why give him a spear and that axe specifically? Because that's not the axe he used in Revelation. It is not. It is not. That is a different axe. That spear is very much a caveman type of weapon. He comes with a power sword. Why? Like that's a real question. Unless this isn't meant to necessarily be the power sword. But if it's meant to be a weapon, you get the idea. I'm just saying that there's room here to argue that they wouldn't have included all this stuff if this wasn't part of the idea. And I honestly think it was. Either way, we've looked at this guy, and I believe my 2 other He-Man figures are arriving in the mail tomorrow. I actually think I got a notice that they were already sent out. So I should be getting the New Adventures He-Man in the mail, and I should also be getting the movie He-Man in the mail. I am looking into the possibility of buying Faker, but I found him online in one thing, and somebody wants to charge me $48 for him, and I don't know if that's the actual going rate price, and I'm not about to pay a double price or an extra price on the idea of the aftermarket on a scalper's market, when really I could just wait and he'll show up on Target for like 30 bucks and I'll just buy him. You get the idea. I will look into whether or not, because I'm already hearing that some people are getting theirs. I've already seen pictures. So who knows? Maybe that Faker could be a part of my countdown, but I'm really starting to doubt it. I don't know if I will have that Faker before I start my Who's the Coolest He-Man variant in Masterverse. We'll see when we get there. That's enough out of me. Guys, keep collecting. I love this hobby. It really is a big thing to me, and Motu has been a huge deal to me. It has been so cool to immerse myself in imagination. And it really is a big deal right now, because a lot of things happened last year. And those things took me some real processing to get through. And stepping away into a world of imagination and then discovering something all new, all big, that feeds all the way back to my Red Sonja, Conan the Barbarian experiences and whatnot, this has got to be my favorite toy line in existence. And I'm talking about Motu in general. I'm not necessarily talking about Masterverse, but Masterverse probably is at the top of that. But it really is. And it's just fantastic in so many ways that I honestly can't explain without a whole other video. But we're not doing that right now. Guys, later on.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.